fellow crafters. This is Carrie from Snip to It. Today I'm sharing a very simple but really helpful trick for getting close to perfect placement of your cardstock layers. A reader recently asked how she could get better results aligning and assembling cardstock layers despite having a hand trimmer. My own mom has a trimmer that makes handcrafting very challenging, so this is an important topic for me personally. In this video, I'll show you how to use score lines or drawn outlines in Cricut Design Space to take the guesswork out of assembly. Using guidelines won't steady your hands, but it does give us a visual bullseye to place our layers. So thanks to Jill for the question, and let's get started. I'm going to show you how to create score lines to guide layer placement first. We demonstrated this technique for the first time in our Eclipse card video, but you can use score lines to guide your card assembly no matter what kind of project you're making. I'm going to demonstrate this using this rainbow birthday card, and if you'd like the SVG, you can get it from our website if you follow the link in the description below. So I've already uploaded my SVG, and you can see by looking at the Layers panel that my design consists of the card base with an attached middle score line, and then I have a front and two inside panels. All the elements that make up each panel are grouped together, but that isn't important for the basic technique I'm demonstrating. I'm going to score guidelines on each panel to show where I need to place my text and all of the rainbow elements. For any design, the steps will be: duplicate your design that you want a guide for, change the operation to score, and attach the score lines to your base. First, I'll start with the front panel that says Happy. I'm going to click on the panel to select the whole group, and I'm going to click the duplicate icon. Now I don't need two of these base panels, so I'm just going to select the duplicate, ungroup, and delete the base panel. Going back to my original panel, I'm going to keep my panel grouped so that I don't accidentally misalign anything. So I'll click on the little arrow to open the group in the Layers panel, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select everything except the base panel, so all of these stripes and lettering. Next, I open the operation menu and select Score. Going back to the Layers panel, I click the main group so that all the score lines and background panel are selected, and then click Attach. I'm going to repeat this process with my two other panels. I duplicate, delete the extra panel, select all the lettering and rainbow pieces, and switch the operation to Score. I select the whole group and attach. Now all my panels are scored and ready to make. I'm cutting everything out of 65 pounds cardstock and just using my scoring stylus to mark my guidelines. So now I have everything cut, and you can see my base panels have these score lines on them to act as a template to guide me in my placement. So this is especially useful to keep things spaced evenly in this like striped pattern, and it keeps cardstock letters straight because unlike vinyl, you don't have a carrier to put them down. Score lines are especially great for using on dark or printed cardstock that won't show pen, but if you have trouble seeing the score lines, you'll want to stick around for the next half of my video where I draw guidelines on lighter cardstock, so I use pen instead of score lines. If you have shaky hands or arthritis, or just like to be more precise, you'll find that glue is way better to use than tape runner when you're putting your card together because it gives you more leeway when it comes to moving pieces a bit after you put them down. And so I either use art glitter glue, or today I'll be using barely art glue with the little metal tip because I have some quite small letters here. So I'm now just going to construct these cards using these score lines as a guide. So I'm going to do them panel by panel. And that's actually another tip. When I'm making cards, I almost always construct each panel that I'm going to have on the front or on the inside. I construct them all separately, and then I put them on my card base, because basically if I mess up on one of these panels, I don't ruin the whole card. Okay, so you can see, and I have constructed a card very similar to this one for an anniversary, and I did it without having any guidelines, and it was a nightmare. This is so much easier having each of these perfectly spaced, and I don't have to do any guesswork. Now, I've printed out another couple of layers for the letters just to give them a little dimensionality. I'm going to put those on now. So like I said, when you use glue, you can just make little adjustments. What I'm doing every time I put a piece down is I'm just pushing it slightly, into place next to those score lines. I'm taking a really close look at it and just making sure that it's within those score lines. Honestly, laughably easy compared to the first time I did a card like this. Basically, not only do you have to keep these in line with one another, evenly spaced, but also spaced around the heart correctly. I can't tell you how much easier this is than the first time I did it with no guidelines. So I'm never ever making one of these again without doing these score lines. And voila, done this one too. So I'm just going to add my extra layers and then I will be finished. Okay, so all done this one now. So I'd like to point out that among these 3 panels, all of these little pieces together, this was over 70 tiny pieces of cardstock, and it took me about half an hour real time to put this all together, and I could only do it because I had all of these guidelines. The second way to create guidelines for placing your layers is to draw them instead of scoring. You can do this in 2 ways. You could make a duplicate of your design and set the operation to draw, or you can make a negative offset or inset of your design and set the operation to draw. This creates a smaller outline that won't show around your design elements. These 2 panels were drawn using a regular Cricut fine point pen, which is 0.4 millimeters. The top panel was drawn directly from a duplicate, but the bottom panel was drawn using a very small negative offset. We want to be able to use these guidelines without having them show underneath the finished work. So here are those same 2 panels which I completed using some scrap orange cardstock. The panel that was drawn directly shows a faint incline around each design element. The panel with an inset guideline doesn't have the same problem. What I'm going to do with the birthday card I'm making is I'm going to draw an inset, and I'm also going to use an extra fine point or 0.3 millimeter pen to draw those guidelines, because I don't want any ink showing around my design. So here's the card that I'm going to create a pen guideline for. Once again, if you want this retro birthday card SVG, you can get it from our website by following the link in the video description below. The panels for this card are also grouped, so I'm going to select the front panel and click Duplicate, then delete the base panel from the duplicate. Now I'm going to zoom in on my panel and select all the design elements except the base panel in the Layers panel. Next, I open the Offset tool, and I'm going to set a very tiny offset of -0.015 inches. I click Apply, and then change the operation for that offset to Draw. I select Pen, and I'm going to use an extra fine point pen in burnt orange. If you want to, you can actually color match your pen to the design, but I'm just keeping it simple and choosing one color for a pen that I already have that isn't too dark. So now I'm going to ungroup that panel and delete everything except my new offset and the base panel. Now I'm going to select that offset and the base panel and click Attach. I'll repeat this for the next panel. So I duplicate, delete the base panel from the duplicate, and then go back to the original group, and I'm going to click everything but the base panel, open the Offset tool, and set my offset to -0.015 inches. You'll notice that the Offset tool will already be preset with your last value. So now I just change the operation for the offset to Draw. Then I go to the Layers panel, ungroup, and delete everything except the base panel and offset. And then I select those and attach. Now it's ready to make. Now that all my pieces are cut, you can take a look at the bases. If you have low vision, like my old eyes, you saw how close that I had to get looking at each of the pieces that I was putting down there for the previous card. You may find a drawn guideline to be way easier than scoring. And for doing designs like the rainbow loop-de-loop, I really love to be able to slot the pieces in. It takes all the guesswork out of placement, just like the first card. So again, because I did this as an inset and it is extra fine point pen, I expect this to be completely covered by the cardstock pieces, and it will make assembly super fast. Okay, so I'd like to point out, when you have a really long piece like this as well, there's a lot of places where you're going to have to make sure it aligns properly at both ends and all of that. And again, it makes it so much easier to, number one, use guidelines, and number two, use glue so that you can, push it around. You've got a little leeway before you can't move it anymore. I definitely recommend using glue instead of double-sided tape. Pretty quick to finish that off. So now here's my second panel. It'll be even easier. In minutes, I have the cool retro roller rink birthday card done. So, all finished. And it took so little time to put this together with these guidelines. The pen lines were covered up by my elements. My final word is this: Handmade cards aren't supposed to be perfect, but creating some guidelines can make it easier for all of us, including those of us with shaky hands, to assemble our cards. But remember what my mom always tells me, sometimes you just have to embrace the chaos and expect imperfection. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you have a disability that makes projects a challenge and would like to share your tips for making crafting easier. Leave us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for all our Cricut crafting tips. Happy crafting!